on YouTube. We're just getting ready to get this started. So while you're waiting, go ahead and smash the like button. And I'm going to hit record. And we're going to go here. So there we go. And here we go. My record button's not working. There it goes. All right. Hello and welcome to this complimentary training. I'm Chris from LifterLMS, and I'm joined by Will from LifterLMS. Kathy's here on the call with us from LifterLMS, and we're excited to go over with you this new training that we've created. It's actually free. It should be worth, or it could be worth thousands of dollars. We brought in some of our top LifterLMS customers, wonderful people, wonderful teachers, with really to surround you or your client, the course creator, with the best kind of distilled wisdom we could find around getting your first 10 enrollments. We see a lot of people, more than we would like, that get the software or they're kind of moving on the project. Maybe it's been a month, half a year, even a year plus, and they don't have their first 10 enrollments or even their first enrollment sometimes. So we wanted to really focus in and create some training around how to help you with that. So if that's something you're into, just let us know in the chat if you're struggling with enrollments, how many enrollments you have, what your challenge is. And we can kind of tailor this presentation to you a little bit. We are recording this. We are going to send out a replay, but I would encourage you to stay to the end because we are going to be doing a giveaway that somebody live on the call is going to win. So stick around to the end. This is an interactive session, so we're going to be doing Q&A. Will's leading this up, so it's really up to him whether we kind of save questions to the end or do it kind of interactive as we go. But please feel free to be very active in the chat, or if you're a pro Zoom user, use the Q&A box, which makes it easier on us to find and manage your questions. Pop that again in the chat. If you have, what's your biggest challenge on getting clients or customers or learners or students or whatever you call them? I can almost guarantee the training that we've created is going to help you get that. We're going to link that up in the chat. And it's called the Enroll Summit. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Will. He spearheaded this whole project. He leads up customer success. So drop us with lots of questions and let's welcome Will to the stage. Hey, Will.
Thank you. So yeah, I guess we put together the Enroll Summit, like Chris said, to help course creators get from 0 to 10 enrollments, which is something we see a lot of our users struggle with along their course creation journey. Maybe they pick up the software, they dive into creating a course, and they kind of end up in this build it and they will come scenario, but no one ends up showing up. So this course really focuses on how you can position your course around your students and get those first 10 enrollments. And the structure of the course follows a framework of the 5 hats, which is something we talk about at LifterLMS frequently. Let me see if I can go full screen in Chrome here and share my slides. There we go, cool. So you can see we cover these five topics in the summit: community building, instructional design, expertise, entrepreneur, and tech. And we have 5 speakers, each giving 2 talks about each of these 5 topics, so 10 talks total, diving into various aspects of community building, instructional design, expertise, entrepreneur, and tech. And if I stop this share and go out to my Safari window here, on the academy.lifterlms.com site, and you'll find this link in the chat, there is the Enroll Summit. And these are our 5 speakers, just like we talked about: community building, instructional design, expertise, entrepreneur, and tech. And you may see some familiar faces. Me and Chris give 2 talks in this summit around entrepreneur and tech. And I just went through the summit again today and watched it. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours worth of content. And there are just some really great takeaways from the summit. And I did queue up a few of those, a few 1-minute snippets. I'm not sure where, Chris, you want me to kind of play a couple of those clips. But
yeah, whenever you want to drop them in.
Cool. So yeah, let me queue up one of those really quick.
And who is it first? Maybe I can intro that person a little bit.
Yeah, I'm doing it in order with Melissa Love first.
Melissa Love is awesome. She's got a case study on our website. We'll link that up in the chat. But she was one of the first people to create a Divi child theme. She's been in WordPress for a long time. She's been in the Divi community for a long time. She's been a designer even before web design. She was in print design and typography design and all kinds of stuff. So, and now she's built a thriving membership site full of designers, which is full of courses and other resources in her membership as well.
For sure. And in our summit here, she gives some awesome talks around building a free community versus building a paid community and what aspects you'll want to incorporate into each one. This is just a snippet of her presentation there.
And my top tip is absolutely do not just say.
Let me make sure I share with sound real quick. Share with sound. Oops. Zoom US wants my audio.
Build it and they will come.
Is that good?
I can tell you this from bitter experience. I built out my first course. I was so sure I knew what everybody wanted. And just at the last minute, a mentor said to me, hey, have you tested your minimum viable product? Have you asked your audience what they want? How do you know this is what they want? And I said, I haven't done that. So luckily, I did have an opportunity to put that out there to my audience. And the answers I got back were not at all what I was expecting. I had to rebuild the whole course. So not only had I squandered my time, I did have a lucky escape, but I could have really done myself some reputational damage or had a poor launch. So luckily that didn't happen to me, but thinking you know what people want is not the same as knowing what people want. Now, before we dive into the 5.
So yeah, that's a key tip from Melissa's talk. And I see that time and time again with thinking you know what people want is different than actually knowing what people want. And by answering people's questions directly and building community before building your course, you'll have a lot more insights as to exactly what your community wants. And I've experienced that exact same thing where I make YouTube videos about a specific topic that I think is going to be relevant to everyone, but nobody ends up really caring about the subject matter I'm explaining. And then I'll make a really obscure video about a question somebody asked about integrating LifterLMS with Elementor in a very specific way. And then that will be my most viewed video on the channel. So thinking you know what people want versus knowing what people want is definitely a very different circumstance, and building that community is super, super important. And
one of those things about Melissa too, and that is like, in order to validate and build that minimum viable product, you need to kind of test your assumptions with some real people that are in your target market. And she also said in that course about like, go where they already are. Like for a lot of solopreneurs, freelancers, in her world, they're in Facebook. So she created a Facebook group for that. And you will have done a lot of work with the LifterLMS podcast. How many times have you heard somebody say the importance of validating or building a prototype or an MVP as like something that was really a key to their success?
Yeah, it's been more times than I can think of. And there are some people who we featured on the LMS cast who are like serial entrepreneur types, who, you know, that's kind of like me, where I'll just start a bunch of projects and then see which one sticks to the wall. Like I have maybe like 10% of projects actually work. That's kind of more my style. But you know, a lot of people just go into one business or two businesses, and they're not doing that that mass approach. And if you're not going to do that mass approach, you really want to make sure you're hitting a nerve with your target market and knowing what content they want to see and what courses they want from you, and really what interaction they're looking for. I could share a video from Jenny, and you know, I would just play the whole summit because it's also valuable right here. So but I went through today and got a few snippets, but I would like, really the whole summit is super valuable. So I definitely recommend checking out the link in the chat and enrolling in that. But this is a quick video from Jenny around targeting what students want to learn and a little bit of that instructional design piece of the puzzle. Let me share here.
You want to have the least amount of material possible to meet your objective. That's your goal. Not to cram everything you know into it, but the least amount of material possible. So the first thing that I like to start with is think about the end. Start with the end in mind. What do you want people to get out of your course? When they walk away from the course, what are they going to be able to do that they couldn't do before? And I think the word do is a really important characteristic here. Notice I didn't say learn. I can learn all kinds of things, but that doesn't mean that I can do something with it that's going to change my life. And what we want to do is give people things that change their life. We want them to be able to take action and do something. So when someone gets finished with your course, what are they going to now be able to do that they couldn't do before? That becomes your goal or your objective, and that's going to guide everything about this course planning process. For instance,
Stop the share there. Jenny has another snippet that I might also play as well there.
While you're bringing that up, she has some cool things about Jenny. We'll link up her case study in the chat. She has she's in a niche where she's teaching childcare providers, and she mentioned in her interview that she was able to get up to 6 figures in revenue. She was able to create jobs for both her children, and her course was actually low priced. There's a lot of buzz in the market about high ticket this or that or premium, go up market kind of stuff. But not only is Jenny a great teacher and a classically trained instructional designer, she's also knows how to pick a market and sell a lot of a small price thing into a very niche market.
Sure. And what Jenny said there about focusing on the result your course delivers and what your students will be able to do that they weren't able to do before getting into your course really goes back to what your students are looking for. Because as an expert, you have a bunch of content in your brain, and getting that content out to the world in a way that the world wants to consume it is super important. And all of our experts and everyone who gave a talk brought up that point of what can students do after your course that they couldn't do before your course. It's not necessarily about all the knowledge. And that goes into what Jenny talks about next here, which I think is a really great analogy of making a peanut butter sandwich, something that makes a lot of sense to everyone. Pretty much everyone's made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but check out this analogy Jenny gives. That's super awesome.
I want to teach you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There are so many things that I could go into. I could talk about how to choose the best bread. I could talk about how peanut butter is made, how jelly is made. But really, in order to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I just need to know the steps involved to make that sandwich. If I get interested enough and I want to learn more about how to choose the best peanut butter or choose the best bread, that can be an advanced course that I choose to take later. But it doesn't need to be in my initial course content.
So that's a big piece of it. With a lot of industry experts who go and make a course, they'll talk about those aspects of how to choose the best peanut butter, how to choose the best jelly, but really what the beginner course students are going to want to know is, how do I put together the sandwich without necessarily those more advanced topics of knowing how to source the best materials. So that can oftentimes stunt the learner in their learning journey if they're kind of told information that isn't perfectly suited to what they're looking to do in this basic course. In her example was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I guess, Chris, have you ever seen that where in a course, it's more of an information encyclopedia style course rather than an objective oriented course? And I don't know if you've ever seen examples where people correct for that.
Yeah. I mean, most people, especially if they're not a trained teacher, if their project succeeds, they have to correct for that. And it has a common name called the expert's curse. There's many curses on the expert. One of them is imposter syndrome, but another one is this inward focus about, it's me, I have to get all my value out on the table. It's about quantity and depth. But if you turn the lens outward from the expert, instead of focusing on yourself, you focus on your students, and how far we've come from just the information age to the results age, like people, and how limited people's attention is these days. The minimum amount to get the maximum result, not just knowledge or info. They used to be called information products. A lot of people still call courses information products, but what people actually want to buy are results products, and they want to get to that result as quickly as possible. And they don't need to know everything you need to know. And the big mistake I see a lot of people make is they get really deep into the terminology, and then you start using all these fancy words, and the person just wants to get the result. They don't need all the vocabulary and the fancy. So
Totally. And one thing Jenny also talks about is an aspect of the tech where she built her 6-figure business with just LifterLMS out of the box. Now she's gone down the rabbit hole of Elementor, which may partially be my fault, but going into those really deep design aspects and creating a really complicated LMS site isn't usually the best thing, especially when going from 0 to 10. Once you're at like that 100 to 1,000 mark and you're trying to really tailor the user experience and put tags on your users whenever they do anything on your website, that's kind of more of that 100 to 1,000 mark, where going from 0 to 10 is really just about getting someone to buy your course and getting that validation for your product. And one thing I'm super curious about with all of the people we have on the call, if you can post in the chat, which of these 5 aspects do you struggle with the most? Community building, which would be getting into Facebook and building a Facebook group or a Slack group or an email list. Do you struggle with community building? Do you struggle with instructional design, which would be what we just talked about with the taking your expertise and putting it in a learnable format? Do you struggle with just making your course and structuring it in a coherent way? Do you struggle with expertise? Maybe you know how to do a lot of this business stuff, you're good with the tech, but you don't have that industry expertise yet. So maybe you would partner with someone who does have expertise that you can complement well. Do you struggle with the entrepreneurial aspect, the aspect of building the business, making the sales and doing the marketing? Do you struggle with that? Or do you struggle with the tech? And you could struggle with multiple things. I know I definitely struggled at the start a lot with instructional design, community building, and some of the entrepreneurial aspects. But struggling with the tech would mean maybe you've had a bad experience with a hosting provider. Maybe your site's throwing errors, and this may be caused by having a lot of plugins on your website. Struggling with the tech could mean just understanding how you can create what you're trying to create. So post in the chat. I want everyone to post in the chat, which of these 5 aspects do you struggle with the most?
We're getting some community building in the house. That's awesome.
For sure. Community building is definitely a hard one. Or a hard one
if
for
you
me.
Build it, they will not come, right?
That's true. Yeah. And
Donna's saying enrollment, which is essentially sales. You may not see it that way, but that's like an entrepreneur thing, getting people through the conversion point. We've got another entrepreneur. Sounds like entrepreneur and community building are our tops so far.
For sure. So community building, we have 2 talks with Melissa Love. She talks about creating a free group and creating a paid group, and how you can get people from your free group into your paid group. And she does a lot of work with Facebook. So her 2 groups are, I guess she has the freebie group where she'll drop all of her paid offers. But if you're a member of the paid group, you have access to all of these courses she comes out with. You have access to monthly mastermind calls. She also does Ask Me Anything sessions. She does a lot of community engagement. So if you're struggling with community building, be sure to check out her 2 talks. I've watched them 3 times over now, and I'm still getting more out of it each time I watch it. But a big part of community building is finding where your students are currently at. So are they on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, Clubhouse, Instagram, Slack, Signal? Finding the vein and the hangout spots where your community is and contributing in those communities is super important for building a community. I guess for anyone struggling with community building, do you know where your community currently is at? Like, are they on Facebook groups, or do you just not know? Like, for example, I have a course on getting to Eagle Scout and mapping the journey of getting to Eagle Scout. And there's not a whole lot of people on Facebook talking about that kind of thing. It's more of something that would happen in the local groups in person where that challenge comes up. So in that case, I didn't really know a lot about where my community was even at all. But if you have an idea of where your community is at, post that in the chat. Where does your community hang out? Are they on Facebook? In the comments of YouTube? Are they on Clubhouse? Do you have kind of an idea as to where they're at? And we see from Deborah in the chat, yes, I know where they are. I just second guess my content.
That's an expertise issue. That comes with and instructional design. You need a framework to create, like Jenny teaches for instructional design, and that gives you confidence. Confidence helps you pull the trigger. And just to be clear, this is a free training we created, but it's super valuable. Like we could easily sell this as a product, but we made it free because we wanted to remove all the friction. Because if you folks don't get from 0 to your 10 enrollments, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to stick around our community. So this is our gift to you. And look at what we do. We have a free Facebook group. We have community. We also have a paid one you may not know about that people get access to when they get the Infinity Bundle from LifterLMS. But we've been building that community one conversation at a time for 7 years. And, lots of people have their issues with Facebook or whatever, or Google, but like, we just go where people are. Like, and people who are trying to create courses, learn online business, they're on Facebook. So we have a Facebook group, so that's how it works. And Melissa goes over that and how she does it as well. So.
For sure. And I actually took a screenshot from Melissa's talk. This may help sort of with Deborah's question there. So this is a screenshot right out of her video. And so this is just kind of a few rules of thumb that'll help you post in your Facebook group, on your YouTube channel. Maybe you're doing YouTube live streams just to sort of get that momentum going in your community. So don't put it off. You need to build trust over time. Starting your community before you're ready is often a good thing to do. A lot of people will put together their course. They'll have their whole website done. It's looking great. And then they'll go create their community. And then they have this long runway of building up their community that, they don't have a lot of enrollments in their course. And now they're going through the runway of building up their community. But if you start your Facebook group, start your YouTube channel, start hanging out in a Clubhouse room by yourself and talking about your topic and building up a community, but even before you build your course, and then choosing the platform of least resistance for your audience. That's about going where your audience is at. If they're already on Facebook groups interacting, if they're already on YouTube binging content, put your content on YouTube and interact with them in the comments and get some friendly faces in nice and early. If you're a coach and you have some clients, you can get them into your group and they'll be great advocates for you. If you have maybe some friends and family who are interested in a similar topic, just getting some friendly faces involved in your group and getting them active during and around your launch will help other people stay engaged. And then setting up weekly scheduled prompts. This is something Chris talks about in his talk about creating a year's worth of content in about a week of time. If you were to create about 13 videos a day, 13 podcast interviews, just creating a lot of content and setting it up for a year. And that's a little bit more of an advanced strategy. You wouldn't want to make a year's worth of content if you don't know what your audience wants, and then realize you have a year's worth of content that people don't need. That's where that community is huge, because you'll see a bunch of questions in your Facebook group and you'll be able to take the titles of your videos or titles of your blog posts by copying and pasting the questions people have. And so building that community is so important for a lot of your business. And then showing up when you say you'll show up. So if you start maybe a weekly live stream, Melissa recommends doing that for at least 6 months. And so if you can't sustain it for at least 6 months, try to find a way that when you start an experiment or a project, give yourself the time to, let the fire burn a little bit and see if people sort of interact with your content, see how they interact with maybe your weekly live streams and things like that. And then make sure there are real tangible benefits, even to your free group. So even though the group is free, you still want to incentivize people to interact with it in some way. And Melissa does this nicely by having her paid members also interacting in her free group. So they're helping bridge and make her sales to get people into her paid membership and her paid group. And then document your wins and theirs. Melissa's content is the marketing fix. So she teaches people how to do marketing for their online courses, for their, I don't know if she has a specifically online, she's in the online course niche, but she might also serve other businesses as well.
She also serves like WordPress professionals or marketing agencies. She kind of like within a target market, sometimes you have these three faces. So she works with like course creators, designers, and freelancers, basically.
For sure. For sure. So she, so the wins in that community would, maybe be a client project, or maybe someone launched their course site or got a certain number of enrollments. It's pretty similar to the wins in the LifterLMS community, but she has some great rules of thumb if you're struggling with creating your content.
So there's a link in the chat while Will's grabbing whatever he's grabbing next. If you haven't signed up for the Enroll Summit, it's basically a course that we organized, 10 lessons. Don't be mistaken by the brevity for how valuable it is. It takes just over 2 hours to get through all the training. It also includes actionable worksheets so that you can get the learning objective we have for this program, which is for you to get your first 10 enrollments. So not only are you going to learn some great ideas, tips, tactics, and strategies, you're also going to get resources to help you execute on precisely what you just learned.
Exactly. And what we're sharing in this webinar here is just the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, there's 2.5 hours of golden content in the summit. So if you want to go deeper on these topics, be sure to enroll in the summit. Even if you're just struggling with one of these hats, check out the 2 videos. It'll take you about 20 minutes to get through 2 talks on a specific topic, and you'll definitely walk away with some great actionable items. And speaking of actionable items, let me pull up Ziv's video here, or his the snippet I pulled out of his talk.
So if you don't know Ziv, I just want to give a context. When we first met him, we found out he was using LifterLMS to teach people how to tie animal balloons. And he made $277,000 in 2020 doing this method during a challenging time for kid entertainers. So obviously it got my attention. So I interviewed him and I found out about his story. And Ziv is just such a great example of somebody who really knows how to pick a niche, to do good sales and marketing, to build a great product. He's actually done it time and time again. He actually has 3 learning projects, at least that I know of. So he just knows what he's doing. So yeah, you can learn a lot from Ziv.
For sure, and this will help with the entrepreneur type questions about how to make sales. And this is some great advice about taking people off of Facebook, out of the communities you're currently engaged in, and getting them onto your email list, getting them into your funnel. So once you've identified, my audience is on YouTube, and you start to make YouTube videos to answer their questions, or my audience is in Facebook, and you start to answer their comments and find solutions for them. Once you're at that point, this is where some of this advice from Ziv is going to come in super big for you. Let me share some there.
The 4th principle is to provide value first. So that is a huge topic in business in general, and I highly recommend you think about them first, about your clients, the people that will watch your course. It's not about what you can teach, it's about what your people in your tribe want to learn, and what are the problems that you can solve. And if you can actually solve a few problems before solving the big problem with your course, that is way better. And then you can establish a relationship based on you having a free party and creating a reciprocity instead of you just wanting to sell immediately. So provide value first through content, through lead magnets, freebie, ebooks, through actually being active on a Facebook group. There's a lot of ways. I will talk about that in the next lesson, but do that. Provide value first and only then sell. And the 5th principle is not to fuss so much about it. Even marketing and business in general is a process of moving. It's about momentum. It's not about perfect. It's never about perfect. So just do it. Just get that swipe file, download it, and start selling your 10 first enrollments. I think that this is so practical. I'm sharing this with you as if I was able to share it with myself like 5 years ago. That would be what I teach myself as well. So after launching hundreds, over 100, let's say, online courses, and each of them is like a baby that I grew up and I've nourished, and like the entire operation of membership sites and coaching people and 6 podcasts. Trust me on this one. You just need to do it.
So yeah, what Ziv got into there about, I think I might have cut the part about like getting people off of your community into your funnel. But a couple of tips Ziv had there was about putting some of those freebies he talks about, like an email, solving problems in your industry, some of those hot points in freebies, and putting links to those in your Facebook profile when you're interacting in your Facebook community, for example, and just answering questions. You're not selling, you're just providing value in other people's communities. They might send you friend requests, send you direct messages, go to your profile and check you out, and they'll find your freebies, and that's how people will end up in your funnel from your community.
Awesome. While Will's grabbing what he's grabbing next, let us know in the chat what have you liked best about this presentation so far? Community building tips, instructional design, getting clients by adding value. What is jumping out at you? What's your big takeaway so far? Even if it's just one word, give us a hint as to what you're liking, what you're learning.
Let's see. I guess I was going to do a call to action in the chat as well.
Okay, my bad. I jumped in front of you. I thought you were going to pull up another video.
Oh, you're good. But so yeah, I guess I was going to say, like, Ziv talks about a swipe file, and you may have heard that on the last little snippet there. And that's something you can download in the course. I have problems writing emails, just getting my mind around taking, the topics I know how to teach and formatting that in a sequence of emails. And, setting up my MailChimp, setting up my CRM, connecting it to my course, and just sending people emails once they subscribe to my email list. Writing those emails is a big challenge for me. So I was going to ask in the chat, type the word email if you have the same challenge. If you have a challenge around writing your emails, getting your emails into your system, and just starting to send those emails. Any challenge around emails, especially writing, that was a big challenge for me. And Ziv has already written emails for you, and that swipe file he's talking about in the course is 6 emails that he's already pre-written for you. You just have to change out your subject matter and your links. So if you have that same problem with writing emails, be sure to check out the course. And Ziv's talks both have a link to where you can download the 6 email templates that you can just copy and paste right into your email list system and start sending.
So it comes from the marketing world, but whenever you hear the word swipe file, they're like templates that you can copy and paste and just switch out some words and obviously put it in your own voice and stuff like that. But Ziv did a huge solid by giving his swipe file or 6 email series to help you generate sales. So definitely recommend getting that from inside the course, which is linked up in the chats. We call it the Enroll Summit to help you go from 0 to your first 10 enrollments. Ronaldo saying awesome. Appreciate that. It is awesome. Ziv's awesome. You're awesome. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah, and the emails are definitely something I'll be using. And Ziv, they're actually from his company Daily Cookie. And so once you get to that point in your revenue where you can afford to hire some of these companies that are like thousands of dollars a month, they can do these full-time writing emails specifically for your audience. So that's sort of more of a maybe 100 to 1,000 or 1,000 students to 10,000 students type area where you can hire one of those companies. But this is a great taste of what it's like to work with delegating some of that work when you can take a swipe file with 6 free emails, change out your links, and be good to go. So I absolutely love what Ziv put together there. So let me check out some questions in the chat. I definitely have more videos and screenshots to share, but let me see if we have any questions in the chat yet. Let's see. The So from Deborah, the reminders about community building are the best. Go to where they are and don't overthink. Absolutely. I'd like the reminder to create content that allows you to show up consistently and add value. Absolutely. Consistency is super important because if you launch a video, launch a project, do a live stream, do a Q&A, and you do that maybe for 2 months, maybe once every other week. So you do about 4 of these live streams and no one shows up. That's not necessarily a great indication of whether it'll work or not. That's why having that 6-month period is a great rule of thumb, just to give it a long enough life to be able to tell with your experiments, if this type of thing could work and how people will interact with it. So definitely some great stuff there from Melissa.
Ronaldo's asking how to find a good email writer. He had a bad experience with one. That's the thing with agencies and freelancers. That's why we created the LifterLMS Experts program. A lot of those folks help you build websites, but I think Ziv is even in there with his daily cookie email service. So go check that out. And at least Ziv is in our Facebook group. If you just kind of type the name Ziv Raviv, you can talk to him inside the LifterLMS Facebook group. So just throwing that idea out there for you as well. And there's there's good email people out there, just like any agency or service, there's a spectrum of quality. So it takes time, but that's one of the great things about the community is you can ask for a referral from within the community of trusted network, as opposed to just trying to just pull something out of the air. That can work, but it's better to get a referral.
Absolutely. I think that idea of reaching out to Ziv in the Facebook group is awesome. And say you saw him on the summit as well. Say, hey, Ziv, I saw you on the summit. You got some great emails. I need more help with that. Can you make a recommendation? And he might recommend his own company, Daily Cookie, but that shows our speakers that you all saw the summit, which helps us bring them back in the future to deliver some more awesome value. But yeah, I think that's everything in the chat so far, if I haven't missed any questions. So yeah, let me pull up something else here. So
Ying, I just want to note, Ying said she had some trouble finding where the students are. And just a quick tip on that is sometimes that's like an expert problem. It comes from not having clarity on who you're serving. So a lot of us get wrapped up in the mechanism of what we're creating and what our expertise is and what we like to do. But sometimes just finding the 1 to 3 types of people who are your ideal customer. Once you get clear on that, it's easier to find them. And just because you're picking your ideal, it doesn't mean you won't help somebody else. But if you could wave a magic wand and the perfect customer showed up on your doorstep, what are they doing? What do they work? What are they? What career are they in? What kind of interests do they have? And with those kinds of things, you can start to triangulate on a Facebook group, LinkedIn group, Slack group. Also do a bunch of stuff in person, like which events are they attending and stuff like that. So customer clarity is what the name of the game there, which then makes the process of making the course easier, because then you can hold that person in your mind. So when Jenny is talking about designing a learning objective to like, what do they want to do? You can actually like visualize that ideal customer and like, okay, well, my ideal customer wants to do this. I need to help them get there without getting overwhelmed or stuck. That's the key.
Totally. Yeah. And another great thing you can do is head to Google with your subject matter and just start typing in questions that people would ask, type in your keywords related to your course. So, maybe if we use my Boy Scout course example, I would just go to Google and I'd type getting to Eagle Scout, Boy Scout Facebook groups, how do I get to Eagle Scout? What are the requirements? Like I'm starting to type all these questions into Google and checking out the links, are there Reddit threads about this? Are there blog posts? Maybe the blog post creator about a specific topic also has a Facebook group, and then you join their Facebook group and start adding value in their Facebook group. Maybe you find a YouTube channel and can interact in the comments of that YouTube channel, or that person has a Patreon, or those are some ways to find communities, just typing keywords related to your subject matter into Google and then going down some rabbit holes and trying to see if you can find the the hot spots and the hangout spots for people talking about your keywords and subject matter online.
Another great one is Amazon book reviews. So if you're kind of stuck as an expert and you're really focused on your mechanism of what it is you do, drop down into the reviews and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of life coaches or dog trainers or scientists or parents. Like you can start to see the groupings of who these 5-star reviews are coming from, what they're happy about, what they're not happy about.
Absolutely. And yeah, finding community or finding people talking about your subject matter and building community is really just about helping others, providing education, entertainment, whatever they're looking for. And it's really different based on the subject matter. So that's definitely a great place to start to find, some of those groups of people. And let me see what else I have here. And one point Jenny brought up about speaking to students directly is by answering questions that students actually ask versus, just putting out content that you think they might want to hear rather than hearing it from them directly, hearing the direct questions from them, is you're honoring the knowledge that your students are bringing to the table by answering their questions directly. And so that's a big part of the learning process, is attaching to the mental connections and your students' current understanding. So you're honoring the knowledge that they already have by answering their questions directly. And, as Chris has said, it's not about the content, it's about the objective. So that's a big point for sure. So then, and yeah, Ziv has some great stuff around community building as well. So if you join 3 specific Facebook groups and you decide to be active in those Facebook groups and just answer questions people have, even if you don't know the answer, even if you're not an expert at the moment, go online and try to find answers for them. You're sourcing answers for other people. That's just a great way to build expertise on a specific subject matter. So if you're struggling with that expertise piece of it and you want to build up that expertise yourself rather than partnering with someone who's already an expert in the subject matter, finding questions people ask, even if you don't know the answer, going and trying to find that answer and understanding their question, understanding the answer, that will make you an expert. That's something that I actually did with LifterLMS, is I would go into the Facebook group, find questions people are asking, and even if I didn't know the answer, like how do I have favorites? So people wanted to have like a liking system. I didn't know how to do that, but I went and found a plugin as to how to do it, and I created a video about it, offering some helpful suggestions, and that is just kind of a way to build expertise. I posted the video on YouTube, then posted it in the Facebook group, and so that's something that you can do in any community that you end up in to build that expertise. And so let me pull up the video of Chris in the summit as well. Myself and Chris have some models that we break down, and this is just kind of a sample of those models for some more kinesthetic learners.
5 hot, burning pains for your ideal learner. So these are what we want to focus on. We really want to, figure out what these pains are and, name them, which I'm going to give you a tool in a second to do that. And essentially, when people go to the internet and they do searches in Google or in YouTube or podcast land or wherever they are, they're often looking for a solution to a certain type of pain. So once we identify what your market's 5 main pain points are, that then allows us to create an ecosystem of, let's call it 13 content items that are related to this pain. Think of every single one of these pieces of content as a problem related to the pain, and then the content is about that pain and then about how your course or your training or your membership solves free course lead magnet. So this is a free course that goes deeper on this pain point and really helps solve it. And using LifterLMS and using a free course, you get an email address, and inside the free course, you add more value. You now have a lead that you can nurture if they're not ready to buy. And if they are ready to buy, they can just go ahead and make the purchase. So this is.
So yeah, that's kind of what a similar thing to what Ziv was talking about, where you have all those pain points, you have your community, and your community will be talking about their pain points online in Facebook and Reddit, wherever they're at, you'll hear them talking about their pain points. And in Chris's presentation there, he's talking about the content you're making around those pain points and how you're funneling your content on YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, into your free course lead magnet, which would be your swipe file, your it could be a free course, what Ziv was talking about as your sort of lead magnet there. And then now they're in your community, they're in your funnel, they're on your website buying your courses.
And just to get a little meta on y'all right now, the Enroll Summit is actually a free course lead magnet of sorts, because one of the biggest pain points, that's why we made it free. Also, one, we just wanted to see our customers and users be successful, but also one of the biggest pains that course creators have, one of the 5 top ones, is getting clients. So this is a free course lead magnet to help get clients. So sorry to get a little meta on you, but that's one of the reasons, if you're not yet a LifterLMS customer and you're watching this video, or you're going through and you end up going through the course, you may end up getting our software, you may not, but we're just trying to surround our ideal customer with support and reduce the main pain points they have. Getting clients is a huge pain point in the industry.
Definitely. And I'm trying to see so getting clients would, as a pain point, would map right to that entrepreneur aspect of, making the sale. Maybe you have an email list with 16,000 people on it, but I guess would you agree, Chris, that pain point is sort of associated with the entrepreneur aspect?
Yeah, I mean, there's many pains that entrepreneurs have, but the 2 biggest ones are leads and sales. So that the content strategy there that we're just showing is a way to generate leads for free without paid ads. And then the other one that I taught in the summit is around how to, once you have their attention, how do you sell them through a structured, non-pushy kind of group sales format through a webinar. So I took the 2 biggest pains that entrepreneurs had, and I made some training around that.
Exactly. And so let me hop over to my video there, where in my talks, I talk about the tech aspect of building your course site. And I don't do a specific demo because this summit could really apply to any LMS site. So it's not necessarily just LifterLMS sites, but it definitely applies to LifterLMS and WordPress sites, especially LifterLMS and WordPress sites where you have all the control. So let me play just a snippet of one of the tech talks. We end up in Easy Street Town. So Easy Street Town is, of course, where we want you to be, where you're not really running into problems very often. You're having kind of a low severity issue, maybe once every 3 months, for example. You're never really going to be able to escape issues entirely. There's always going to be technical issues popping up here and there. But in Easy Street Town, when we have good hosting and we're a tech minimalist, it's going to be a lot less frequent that we run into these issues. And it's going to be a lot easier to deal with when we do run into the issues. And instead of going live and launching an MVP, we end up in this never launch phase in the middle. And then we have progress, the green bar at the top, which is where you launch your MVP, you get students enrolled, and then you kind of make changes from there based on what students say, what students need, and what students are looking for from your platform. You'll end up making a lot of progress.
I just want to highlight something that you said, Will, which is, could you describe like that first slide you had where you were there was like a spectrum of like, I have good or poor hosting, and then I have lots of plugins and themes and tech, or I have a minimalist approach. Like, tell us what emergency room town looks like, where we have poor hosting and we have tons of tech.
For sure, and we'll go into more depth on this in the summit, but basically, emergency room town is where you have that intersection of poor hosting and you're a tech maximalist. So like Chris said, that's where you have, more than 30, 40, 50, 60 plugins installed on your website. You've got maybe multiple page builders on your website. Page builders would be like Elementor, Beaver Builder, Divi. Those can kind of slow down your website, especially when they're working together, like multiple on the same website. Usually you would only have one. But it's really that point where you open yourself up to a lot of possible plugin conflicts, and you're also on a poor hosting platform that doesn't necessarily support dynamic websites. Like LMS websites are some of the most complicated types of websites because it incorporates logins, user accounts, user permissions. Each user can have different levels of access. And so the amount of importance that's put on having a good hosting platform is especially important with an LMS website that needs to communicate with the database. And when a new user purchases something, the database needs to know about it. And hopefully there's not a ton of caching in place on your pages that are supposed to be dynamic. So that's kind of where you're putting a lot of weight on a not great foundation. It sets you up for kind of an emergency room town. And then being a tech maximalist on good hosting that does support LMS, you're going to end up in Frankenstein town. So even though you are on a good host, you're still going to have some of those tech conflicts. And maybe like once every 2 weeks, once a month, you're going to have somewhat of a big issue on the website where you're communicating with support of the company trying to troubleshoot an issue because you have a ton of plugins and themes that are interacting with each other and having some specific conflicts. And then Confusion Town would be if you're on poor hosting and you're a tech minimalist. So, you're doing the tech minimalist thing. You have like 10, 20 plugins, but you're still on poor hosting, but there's still some confusion around why things are breaking. You're using the best practices of having minimal tech, but random issues continue to happen. That might be due to having a poor host, kind of a poor foundation. But then if you're a tech minimalist and you have great hosting, it's very easy to figure out what the problems are. For example, there was a client that emailed me today and had an issue, but he only has 3 plugins on his website. So figuring out what the source of the issue was very easy because there were 3 plugins, Elementor, Elementor Pro, and then I think a security plugin. It wasn't an LMS website, but it was a very minimalistic website. And so when you're a tech minimalist and you're on good hosting, it's very easy to tell what's going on. And then you reach Momentum Town if you're a tech minimalist and you have great hosting, where the tech is just kind of out of your way and it can be somewhat seamless. And like I said in the video, you can never truly escape tech issues. Even with the best hosts, things will pop up from time to time, but when issues do come up, it'll be a lot easier to deal with them and they pop up significantly less often.
Cool.
So yeah, we have a question from Marco in the chat. Tech aspect. I started with WooCommerce subscription using individual subdomains for shop, LMS, and blog for speed and clarity. Setting up the whole system became much more complicated. In the meantime, several plugins got updated, but with new challenges and complexity, also designing the courses in a corporate style of website isn't easy. You started with some great tutorials about that. Yeah, for sure. One thing I learned recently is that having all of your items, your blog, your LMS, and your shop on one website is really good for SEO. I think we might have experienced that with LifterLMS, how the blog gets great SEO, but it doesn't contribute to the LifterLMS website. So having it all on one platform, I did the same thing where like I had the subdomains, and apparently that's not necessarily the best practice for SEO. Just with site reputation.
Another thing too is if you do need to do that for some reason, Melissa Love, who we have in the summit here, does that. She has a separate WooCommerce site where she sells, and then she has the LMS on a subdomain, and she links it all together with WP Fusion. So it definitely can be done. But yeah, it's just just a preference. But in Will's diagram, the tech minimalism, I think it happens to all of us in anything when we try something new. Like going backpacking, the first time I went, I had all this gear and my pack was heavy. And now when I go, it's like, you know, a third the size. The same thing's true for building websites. You know, when you first get started, you're like, you find a plugin for this and that, and all of a sudden it just gets out of hand. But that's how you have to kind of earn the right to be a minimalist, or just follow somebody who's guiding you on the essential path from the beginning, which is what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. So let me see if I have any other resources or tips. Yeah, I think that's.
Well, let us know in the chat or in the Q&A box while we're here, if you have any questions at all that we can help you with. If you have any challenges around going from 0 to your first 10 enrollments, let us know in the chat. Also, what's your big takeaway, if you could say it in 1 to 3 words? Minimal tech, find the pain. What else we got? We got community. What is the big one for you? Email sequence. What was the one that you think you need the most help with, or that you learned the most on this call? And to be clear, go deep. Click the link in the chat. Be sure you register for the free course. And you can, it's well worth your time. Like it's like a little over 2 hours of content, but I would say, like, if you tried to learn all these things individually, like, people would make whole courses about each one of these lessons. So this is kind of like the minimum. It's like highly distilled, focused, only the essential stuff. It's very good. Ronaldo says, find the pain and develop around that. Yeah, in my talk, I kind of show how to find the 5 pains. When you're just starting out, find the chief one. Like, what is the top pain? That's your first one. And that'll give you a idea of like 10 content pieces, maybe a free course related to that you can kind of build a funnel into your main offer. So check that out. Does Lifter 5.0 give you possibility to style courses? Styling courses is more of a theme activity. So LifterLMS kind of has a base design, but you want to choose a theme that can help you give styling options, especially if you don't want to get into coding and stuff like that. So Lifter kind of has a neutral design, and then the themes really build on top of that, or people custom code. Astra is really popular. Cadence is popular. Those are probably the 2 most popular that give you a lot of styling options without having to code if it detects that LifterLMS is installed. And just a heads up, LifterLMS 6.0 is coming. It's not going to come out this year, but we're close, and it's going to be good. So get excited for that. And let me just check nobody's in the Q&A box. Possibly Ronaldo, possibly. I'm not committing to a timeline. It'll actually come out pretty soon into what we call alpha and then beta. And then it will, from there, when I say it will come out, I mean, it's no longer in beta, it's out and it's live. So it's coming soon. So we got a link to Astra theme in the chat.
Yeah, do you know what LifterLMS 6.0 is? LifterLMS 5.0, for anyone on the webinar who doesn't know, is the forms update, basically, where you now have full control over your purchase forms, your edit account forms. Is there like a LifterLMS 6.0 theme like that?
A theme?
Or no, just not like a WordPress theme, but like, 5.0 forms
a
update.
lot of the theme with 6.0, the theme of it is around kind of cleaning up not cleaning up, but just optimizing and evolving the engagements engine of LifterLMS. So how certificates and achievement badges and a lot of how the engagement engine and some templating around that, so you can do some mass operations, is pretty excited. Yep, speed is good, Ronaldo. I followed your advice, Norla says, and create a subdomain for e-learning with LifterLMS. You've given me great ideas to pull. my email audience into a free course? Absolutely. Some people call it the login opt-in strategy. That's one way I've heard it called, to create a free course lead magnet instead of giving somebody an ebook, which is you can do, but a consumable course is great. And then if you're using a CRM, you could use WP Fusion to pipe that email right over and start a nurture sequence. Or if you're using emailing broadcasts from your site, if you're using something like Groundhog or Fluent CRM, you can just start building your list and creating marketing campaigns from there. So check that out. Any other final questions? Let us know. We are going to draw the winner. So congratulations to you folks who stayed the full hour to the end. You're going to get a free $120 add-on, which means 1 year of a LifterLMS $120 add-on for free, or you can apply that to a something else, an upgrade or a bigger bundle. So it looks like Stefan Wagner is the winner. So congratulations. That's in the chat. So Stefan, congratulations on your winning. Just email us at team@lifterlms.com so we can hook you up. If you want a free year of one of our $120 add-ons, let us know. If you want to apply it towards something else, let us know and we will hook you up. We've got the Enroll Summit in the chat. This is the last time. The chat window is about to go away. We're about to close out that call. So go ahead and click on that link and enroll yourself. And it's a good, just skip one movie is what I ask. Skip one movie and take the Enroll Summit, and I think it's going to blow your mind. Because really, that could have been a 10-hour course. Each of those could have been their own course, but they're super condensed, super tight. They use a similar teaching framework. So once you get in the flow, you're going to get all this value and kind of get in the flow of getting to your 0 to 10 enrollments. Stefan, you're welcome. Thank you for coming and sticking to the end. Will, any final words for the people before we sign this off?
Yeah, I guess like Chris said, get enrolled in the Enroll Summit. Even if you're above 10 enrollments, there's some great tips in there. And you don't actually have to watch the whole thing. Like if you are really struggling with building your community, just check out Melissa Love's talks. It's only about 20 minutes of content and that'll get you on your way. So, if you want a full, well-rounded approach, check out the whole thing, but there's also some great deep dives as well. So get enrolled.
That's an awesome tip. All right. Well, thanks everybody who's here. Thanks for staying till the end. Just let us know, help@lifterlms.com if there's anything we can do for you in the meantime. Will, great job with putting this together, leading up the project. Kathy, thanks for helping putting this on. I hope everybody out there has a great rest of your day. Let's get everybody up to 10 enrollments. And if you get stuck,